I held the secret in my mouth like a jagged piece of glass for 24 years. But when I saw her standing there in that white lace dress, I knew I couldn't let her walk down the aisle, believing a lie. I'm 51 years old. My only daughter is getting married in less than 12 hours, and I just spent the last hour destroying the image of the hero she's worshipped since the day he died. I've lived 2 decades as the brave widow of a man who never actually existed, and tonight, the ghost of Mark finally stopped haunting our hallways and started haunting her instead. I held the secret in my mouth like a jagged piece of glass for 24 years. But when I saw her standing there in that white lace dress, I knew I couldn't let her walk down the aisle, believing a lie. I'm 51 years old. My only daughter is getting married in less than 12 hours, and I just spent the last hour destroying the image of the hero she's worshipped since the day he died. I've lived 2 decades as the brave widow of a man who never actually existed, and tonight, the ghost of Mark finally stopped haunting our hallways and started haunting her instead. You have to understand what Mark was to this town, and more importantly, what he was to Chloe. He died when she was just 4. A tragic car accident on a rainy Tuesday night. That was the story. For 20 years, I've kept his photos on the mantle. The one of him in his hiking gear, the one of him holding Chloe at the hospital, the one where he's laughing at some joke I can't even remember anymore. He was the gold standard. Every boy Chloe dated was compared to him. Every time she felt lost, she'd sit in front of his picture and ask for a sign. I watched her build her entire moral compass around a man she thought was a saint. The truth is, Mark didn't die because of a slick road or a mechanical failure. And he wasn't coming home to us that night. Our marriage wasn't the fairy tale I let everyone describe at the funeral. In the months before the accident, the silence in our house was heavy. I'd find receipts for restaurants I'd never been to, and I'd catch him smiling at his phone in the middle of the night. I was 27, exhausted with a toddler, and I was so desperate to keep my family together that I pretended not to see the cracks. I thought if I was just a better wife, a thinner wife, a quieter wife, he'd come back to me. The night of the accident, we had fought. It wasn't a cinematic blow-up. It was one of those cold, hateful whispers. He told me he was going to his brother's house to clear his head. I watched him pull out of the driveway and I felt this relief, thinking he just needed space. 2 hours later, the police were at my door, but they weren't the only ones who called that night. A woman named Elena called my house 3 days after the funeral. She was crying so hard I could barely understand her. She wasn't some random fling. She was the woman he had been living a second life with for 2 years. She told me they were planning to leave that weekend. She told me that the night he died, he wasn't on his way to his brother's. He was on his way to her. He had a suitcase in the trunk that the police assumed was for a business trip. It wasn't. It was his entire life, packed in a Samsonite bag, because he was done with us. I had a choice right then. I could tell the world the truth and let them pity the woman whose husband died while running away from her. Or I could bury the suitcases and the affair along with him. I looked at Chloe, who was crying for her daddy, and I chose the lie. I made him a martyr. I told her stories about how much he loved her, how he talked about her every second, how he was the most loyal man I'd ever known. I watched that lie grow like a weed. It choked out the truth until I almost believed it myself. But then, Chloe met David. David is a good man. He's kind, he's steady, and he's human. But for 3 years, I've listened to Chloe doubt him because he wasn't perfect like her father. She'd say things like, "Dad would have known what to do," or, "I just wish David was as selfless as my father was." Tonight, she came into my room. She was panicking about the wedding, crying about how she was scared she wouldn't be able to live up to the marriage I had with Mark. She looked me in the eyes and said, "Mom, I just want a love as pure as yours was." And I just couldn't do it anymore. The words came out before I could check them. I told her about the phone calls. I told her about the suitcase in the trunk. I told her that the man in the photos didn't want us. I watched the color drain from her face, and I watched 20 years of her identity just dissolve. The dress was hanging on the door behind her, and for a second, it looked like a shroud. She didn't scream. She didn't even cry at first. She just sat on the edge of my bed and asked, "Why did you let me love a ghost?" How do you answer that? How do you explain that you thought a fake hero was better than a real father who didn't want you? I thought I was protecting her, but all I did was give her a standard that no living man could ever meet. I let her build her life on a foundation of sand, and now, the night before her wedding, I've let the tide come in. She's in her room now. The light is under the door, and it's been quiet for hours. I don't know if she's going to get married tomorrow. I don't know if she'll ever look at me the same way again. I thought telling the truth would set me free, but sitting here in the dark, I realize it just transferred the weight of the glass from my mouth to her heart. I used to think I was being strong by keeping the secret. Now I wonder if I was just a coward who couldn't face the pity. I gave her a beautiful lie, and in return, I robbed her of the truth of her own life. If you had to choose between a painful truth and a perfect lie for the person you love most, which one would you pick, and would you be brave enough to live with the silence once that lie is gone?